students. Well, I like to think of me, myself, and most of my colleagues as still students. But welcome to today's seminar as part of the Sociology seminar series. And term has barely begun, but we've already into the second seminar, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a great start to the year so far. We're very pleased to have here with us today Dr. Manindra Thakur, who is Associate Professor at the Center for Political Studies at JNU. Dr. Thakur just said that should be enough, but I'd just like to add a little bit more. If anyone's interested in looking at Dr. Thakur's work and some of his ideas and writings, you should check out his work in journals such as Sambad, Jansatta, and an online site called The Fifth Floor, which picks up his articles that Dr. Thakur told me. He's also the co-author of a book, if I'm not mistaken, on Democracy on the Move, Reflections on Movements, Promises and Contradictions. And actually before this I was watching a video of you on YouTube where you were talking about the idea of philosophy and human traditions as well. And I was actually quite struck. So in that sense, if I may, when I'm trying to sort of, when I was thinking about how to introduce you, I would say that then hence, Dr. Thakur is a prominent scholar and teacher who engages with philosophical theory, but also from a position that questions what we now understand as Eurocentricism in theory, and when I say theory from the point of philosophy and the social sciences fields. And also looking at the possibilities of what an Indian theory could be, whether it's from the point of philosophy and social sciences. And one thing he did say I could add, and which also talk about, and which I'd like to remember about, is he's part of a movement that has started a movement called creative theory. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. And the title of today's talk is Indian Intellectual Traditions and Social Sciences in Search of Transformative Practices. Thank you very much, Dr. Thakur, for being with us. They're all yours for the next few minutes. What are some?
Thank you for inviting me to this place. I was wondering what kind of place it is. I was discussing before coming here that there are two international universities, I guess. One is Nalanda and one is South India. And it's really good to see that people from different countries are around, and only worry is that probably many of them may not have exposure to the Indian debate at all. But hopefully I will try to make it easy for them. Let me begin with the idea of creative theory, what it is. It's also kind of an implement part of it. It's an intellectual movement, not started by me. It's a kind of movement going on in Delhi since last many decades, I guess. Of course, one can trace it to a professor called Professor Randir Singh, who used to be legendary professor of Delhi University. And there are many people like Manoj Mohanty, Neeraj Gadhav, Dr. M. Dever, and General Affairs. And then our generation joined in. And now you have many people in Delhi University, JNU, and different parts of the country spread from that group. We used to run a kind of Tuesday discussion group in the university in the 1980s, and that gradually got converted into an institution called Developing Countries Research Center in the university. But then the center grew further, but the group declined in the sense that the center became a kind of center of attraction for those who wanted to use that space for their own benefit. So we got again kind of fragmented, we went to different places. And after some time, we decided to come together without a center. So it's now there's no formal organization, there's no formal institution. It's just a group, and we want to exist outside the university. There are times we feel that the universities sometimes become highly anti-intellectual, and do not provide enough space to have cross-discipline discussions, or they are very hierarchical cycle, and I don't need to say any more about it. One can know what's happening in JNU. So, fear that we had earlier also. So we just thought that it will be very unorganized space. So formally I believe in chaos. So chaos is part of my personality and part of the organizing. I'll come to the point what it stands for, and partly I'll be talking about that. But I initially thought of this discussion as a creating theory dialogue with sociology. So since we don't believe in disciplines, so we keep engaging in different disciplines in dialogue, including political science. Though I formally teach there, but they don't accept me as political scientist mostly, and I'm not invited by political scientists mostly. So it's kind of thing. And now let me get back to this. The question that I want to raise, and it is a question, and I'm actually searching an answer to this, and I would like to provoke you to think about it. That is, why Indian social sciences or social sciences in general have ignored intellectual traditions in India or Asia. I think of Asia, but unfortunately my university did not agree to fund the Asia project, so I have to put India in that. So we take it as an India and Asia, not big brotherly attitude, but just a kind of arrangements that one can do for adjusting in the institution. So it's an Asian society has been very different compared to the non-Asian societies. One of the differences that I can talk about is that most of the major religions have emerged in Asian societies. There must have been some reason. I mean, Gandhi raised this question at one point in time, and I think that's a very valid question. But why, after all such big religions, the world religions you call, they emerged in Asia? And what is the consequence of that? And how then the society is different? So I think that it's not only religion, and also I'll come to that point that how so we understand religion within sociology and other disciplines. But the core issue that I want to raise is that why is intellectual traditions that have been huge history have never been considered seriously by the formal social science disciplines within the university setting. Despite the fact, I would like to reconsider if this question is relevant at all. Some people told me that you are raising a very irrelevant question. It is not important. Long back, my own professor, Professor Dev Singh, told me that, well, this is not a relevant question. But towards the end of his life, I asked him once again, I asked him that, what do you think you could not do and you would like to do if you get a second life? He said that if I get a second life, I would rather like to teach Indian philosophy. Another professor of mine who really kind of rejected my question was Professor Manoj Mohanty himself, who said that, well, why are you insisting on this point? I think India did not have philosophy. But it was 25, 30 years back he said that. Now you would say that, no, I think that we have missed that point and we have to get back to it. So a lot of people started talking about it. Globally also, if you look at the text on history of philosophy, 10 years back, that would begin with Greek philosophy. And last 10 years, you will find more and more books coming up where they have one chapter on India, one chapter on China, and the rest is the Europe, and they call it world history of world philosophy. So I think the scenario is changing, and changing in a big way, in the sense that many philosophers, global philosophers, they are coming to the conclusion that the Western philosophy is in deep crisis. Modern Western philosophy is in deep crisis. I can take some names like one of the persons who everybody knows is Zizek. So Zizek is very openly saying that there is a deep crisis and we have to engage in others. And I'm surprised to see Zizek's book on living at the end of time. He has devoted almost 2 pages on Tantric philosophy. Tantra. So it was really a big surprise for me. But there are many such people who are talking about these things. Now, I mean, you can also talk about the Korea project, but it's Sanskrit, which is very popular in the West. And and Sanskrit texts now being published simultaneously with English translations by so there is a rising interest in Indian intellectual traditions. And when I'm saying Indian intellectual traditions, I do not mean only the Sanskrit traditions. I would mean Pali and even Persian and Urdu and Arabic that emerged and grew in India. One of the friends who is part of my project, I don't know much about Persian and not as recent Persian that grew in India, but a friend of mine called Akhlaq, who teaches Persian in JNU. He has interesting things to talk about, Bedil and others, that how they try to conceptualize Indian traditions. And there are thousands of manuscripts lying around, including one of the manuscripts which was in Kuzabat's Monitor Library in Persian, on which Professor V.S. Verma, who was a physics professor in Delhi University, was working in Shimla. That is about optics. That how optics, and there is some link with Archimedes, where Archimedes was trying to develop an instrument which could concentrate the sun rays and burn the ship. So that technique has been written in Persian language, and the manuscript is available. So the point I want to make is that when I'm saying intellectual traditions, it means huge thing. I'm just, for my convenience, since I'm working on that, I'm taking Sanskrit tradition as one of them. There are other examples how it is getting done. I remember Sumitra Kaviraj, a political scientist, went to Soviet Union to speak on nature of Indian state. And when the lecture was over, people came to see him and asked him about yoga, not about the nature of Indian state. And those who know Kaviraj, they know that he is a great Marxist thinker of India. I used to be at least. And now Kaviraj is writing Mahabharata and writing on so many other things. And one of the points that he made is simply that if you want to contribute something to the world in the field of knowledge, you have to definitely read two languages, Sanskrit and Persian. This is coming from an ex-Marxist or Marxist scholar. We have Professor Gopal Guru, who went to speak in Columbia or Pennsylvania on Dalit issues, and then he was asked a question that why do you need to access Kant in order to talk about humanism? You have so many great thinkers talking about humanism in India. Have you accessed them? So he came running to me and asked me, can you give me some text which is talking about this? So you have many such examples. Since I'm known as talking about Indian tradition, at the risk of being branded sometimes as BJP Wala, they come to me to ask about this. I think there's one other reason why it's very important. Since India is standing at a very turning point, and I would agree that our political system has more or less failed. The reason is that we thought that after Noakhali, when Gandhi was moving around trying to say that peace is important, and then he realized that his method was not working. After that, we thought that the next method would be to introduce secularism with Indian state. And Indian state would take care of everything because we will be converted from an individual in the community to individual as a citizen. And since all citizens are equal, we have rights given by the constitution, so inter-community conflicts can be taken care of. I think that big project of Indian nation building has more or less failed. I'm not talking about the government. Governments come and go. I'm saying that there's something happening at the grassroots level where the project is no more owned by people. It used to be owned earlier. And coming of the party which is supporting communalism or something, I consider that as a symptom, as a consequence of something happening in the grassroots. Of course, then once you are in the power, you have your own impact on the grassroots too. Not that there is not an impact. But my real worry is that the project that is thought, the great secular project of India, more or less seems to have failed. And with that, even the great secularists are now turning towards Indian intellectual tradition, like Rajiv Bhargava is now talking about what the term he uses is something like some dialogical space or something in the policies of Akbar. So he's going back to, he has went to medieval time, and now he's going to ancient time to find out if we have some resources where we can theorize of communities living together. So there is a return to that, and I'm not the only one. I've been talking about this since the last 25 years, and I'm very happy that I could catch this train very early in my life that things might go this way. So then the question is that why this has not happened? Why till now? And I hope everybody will agree with it. If somebody listens to a political scientist, for them the world begins with Greek thinking. Well, Greek, we had a lot of things before Greek thinking, but we never even tried to access that. In sociology, I guess, except the one I've been talking about in the lower school, and nobody even talked about it. In fact, other people said, well, why should we talk about the past? We should talk about the future and the present, and as if that all theories are available now. So there are issues there. So why it has not happened? One I think, answer to this, as I said, Andrew gave, that when these were the theories of the past, and time has changed, we have become modern. The modernity has come to us in a way that they're all transformed now. We have become modern society. Or, at best, some people are saying we have multiple modernities, but we are modern nevertheless. So we claim to be modern. There are thinkers saying that we never get modern, but more or less we all believe that we are modern. So we get modern as the name of shops everywhere in the country. That is a modern. I do not agree with you on this. I think that I'm doing a project on knowledge and practice in contemporary India and moving around, and my puzzle is that how do people think? Do they consider themselves as modern or not? I think it's a very small minority in the country, which is the educated elite, which consider themselves as modern, mostly. That too, I'm not sure if they consider themselves modern in the private sphere. Because I remember many of my Marxist friends, I went to somebody's house and he was sitting on puja. So I said, I didn't ask him anything, I said, I'm reading outside. He said, no, not me, my son, or my wife. As if it's a crime to get into the temple or something, or I had a red dhaga on my wrist, something like that, and seminar I removed that because from them. So somebody posted my photograph on the Facebook saying that Brahminical Marxism, beware of Brahminical Marxism. So I think we have this tendency of becoming modern in the public and traditional in the private. I can give you a number of examples of my Marxist friends, including some big professors who have Hanuman is in the kitchen so that nobody can see. So I think that to say that we are modern and therefore only we can consider ourselves to modern categories would not really make sense. I think there is a more complex situation that we are facing. Forget about the villages where I keep going. I keep going to many villages where I find that there are different traditions that they were that was part of their collective consciousness earlier. It still continues to be there. And I can name many villages right from Guwahati, Assam. There is a village called Mayong in Assam. Mayong is a tantric village. You go to that place, you won't even think that you are in India. They talk about things very differently. And they believe in it. They believe in it. Whether rightly or wrongly, they believe in that. And there are, I have addresses of the people who go from Delhi to Mayong to solve their problems. And I talk to them what happened There's a lawyer who went to my home and I got the address from there. I asked him, did you go there to solve your problem? He said, yes. So you have a village in Kerala, which is called a mathematical village. In that village, 5 generations wrote mathematical manuscripts. Very interesting. There are villages in Kerala where you have live Nyaya traditions. There are villages in Mithila, everybody knows about Mithila, probably those who so know about it, that if you go to that village, every village, almost, at least 10, 15 villages in a cluster you will find, every village had 1 or 2 very big philosophers as part of that community. You can take any name in the Nyaya tradition, they were from that part. Of late, I discovered that people like Amartya Sen and Kaviraj, they are also trying to trace their lineage back to Nyaya. You know, Amartya Sen has a book called Argumentative Ending. If you read that, he says that, he writes very categorically that his grandfather was a Nyaya expert. And he says that many of the economic theories that I've got because of the argumentative techniques that Nyaya philosophy uses. But that book is not celebrated by the economists. That's another test. They say that, why did he write that book? I said, that's the only book he has, sensible book that he has written. I don't know about his economic policies, but I think there you make compromises to get Nobel Prize. So you have to get Nobel Prize, so you have to marry again and again, or all kind of things you have to do. So, but I guess that this is something that he did, that he would try to trace back his intellectual journey to the collective consciousness in which he was born. I asked Kaviraj that you were born in that area. Would you say that there is an impact of that on your mind? Kaviraj is in North Colombia via SWAS, via KNU and SWAS. So he said that since I have joined Columbia University, people are telling me, since they know about Nyaya, that when you make arguments, it sounds like making a Nyaya argument. And by the way, let me tell you something very interesting about Nyaya philosophy, those who don't know it. It's an argumentative tradition of India where you are taught how to argue, how to make your argument. It's a logic tradition basically, part-based logic tradition. I call it a realist tradition. And I have an article on Marxism and Nyaya where I compare 2 forms of realism. And I think that Nyaya realism is much better because it actually considers abhava, absence, as a category. Marxism doesn't take absence as a category, which it should take. But it explains a lot of things to us. And that's another story I can talk about, how Freud didn't have a category of absence, therefore he could not really understand. He could understand the relation which was present. He could not understand the relation which was absent. As when you have your mother, then you have one kind of relationship with your mother. But when you lose your mother at young age, so mother is not absent, she is absent physically. But by being absent, she is present in your life. Then what kind of relation do you develop with her? And I call it that a security relationship. It's not a sexual relationship. So many people like Rajni Kothari and others, those who lost their mothers in childhood, they kept looking for security. And he has acknowledged it. He wrote in his autobiography that the reason why I created CSDS was that I always felt absence of my mother in my life. So I was looking for security for myself. You have another person called Roy Haskell, a famous philosopher of science. He lost his mother when he was 6 months old. So he personally told me that loss I have always have feeling with me. And then when I am creating an intellectual community is because I am looking for security, I feel. So Freud did not have this idea that what kind of problem the absence can create. So I'm saying that these are the traditions which have still existed and powerful. And they are not religion. But please don't consider that as religion. That is another point I want to make, that the Western philosophers, Western traditions, what it has done, all the other knowledge traditions, which do not talk in their terms of epistemology, they have pushed them into religion. Whereas surprisingly, when I read 6 philosophies, the 6 schools of India, none of them talk about God to start with. Their Adi Granth, the first text, You know what are they? What is the purpose of that test? What do they write? They say that the purpose is to eliminate three kind of tap. Tap is look or tap or the problem. Dahic, Davic and Bhavik. The physical world in which we are living, the body, and something that we can't predict. We don't know. So Nyaya says that if you can argumentatively resolve that issue, your mind can be at a stage of rest. Sankhya says that argument won't do. You have to enter into the layers of your consciousness and analyze the layers of your consciousness. If you can do that, then you can have a peaceful life. Mimamsa says that you have the major problem that you are facing is a problem of interpretation. You are interpreting things wrongly. If you know the laws, property, how to interpret, then half the problem is. So they are about solving the problem of human beings, not about the other world, the God and other things. So one of the reasons I think Goethe and others, they treat these philosophies as useless. Well, one, they think it was part of the tradition. That's another problem is tradition modernity paradigm, which I want to reject completely. And the other thing is that they think it's part of the tradition. Like you read Veerananda, she is absolutely angry about Indian intellectual tradition. I think she is, for me, enemy number two, not personal enemies. About paradigm, I consider the enemy number two. The first, of course, is Descartes. The second is Veerananda. And I'm saying it's very likely, don't take it seriously. But there is a problem with this kind of approach, the modernist approach. Those who think that we have become modern and therefore we cannot use these traditions as resource for our understanding of the contemporary world. For understanding the contemporary world, we have to take everything from the modern West. Which Gandhi, of course, rejected. I can understand this point to some extent. For economists, for instance. Well, we never had capitalism. So our critical knowledge system had no idea about capitalism. And those who access that, even they don't have any idea of capitalism. How can they have any idea of capitalism? Gandhi himself could not have proper idea of capitalism what he told us. So there's that I can understand. But I don't understand this for sociology. I can understand this political scientists also. Because political scientists have a big problem. They have institutions which have come from the West. So if I want to think how the parliament should work, we have no other option except to go back to Parliament of England and see how it was working. Or we want to know what decisions should we take in the judiciary. We want to go back to American court and see if they have taken this decision, we can decide like this. I mean, there's a big problem with that. But these professional social scientists, I can understand the problem. But my puzzle is with the sociologists. They have no burden of this kind. Their burden is to explain what is happening in your society. So therefore I thought it's a good opportunity to kind of take up on you and tell you that what you're doing is not probably a good idea. The other thing is this other approach is Nandi kind of approach. What are they saying? They are saying that look, we are epistemic community. Being epistemic community means that we have our own method of understanding the reality and managing things that we face. So we have our theory of knowledge and we constitute a community which is not only say a national community or a social community or religious community, it's an epistemic community. There is a kind of theory of knowledge that we have. So what has happened is when the Western has come to us, those people have come to us, they could not understand us properly. And therefore, they have Orientalism. There is a kind of Orientalist understanding of us and we are enslaved by that. And he keeps on critiquing, since last many years, many decades, those problems that have been created by them. I had a chance to ask Nandi once. That was Nandi, there are two problems I'm facing. One is that you have been telling us since long that they have created a big problem for us. How long will you keep telling this to me? Do you have something to offer? What to do now? Because what I see is you are just saying this, and then when it comes to developing an alternative thinking, you take a U-turn. And not only you, many people take U-turn. What is the problem with you? And believe me, he put my hand and said, "Come, I'll give you a cup of coffee." In ice. And then he said, "You know, we fear. And Bengalis fear more." I said, "What is the fear that you have?" The fear is that we will not be acknowledged by the West. He said that we will not get the ticket to the West, which means that we will not be acknowledged by the West. So the Western acknowledgement is a big problem that we are facing. I think my problem with this serious problem with this argument is that, and I'll come to that when I talk about alternative thinking, but you have to have open mind towards available theories and philosophies. It would be reverse Eurocentrism if you are saying that we will do the same thing that they have done to us, or we keep critiquing them. This is a great game. The colonial power is very happy as long as you keep talking about them, either negative or positive. Please don't ignore them. They will give you all fellowships to go to SLAS or anywhere you want, as long as you talk about them. If you say that, no, I want to talk about myself, and they're not interested in that, why should they be interested in that? You keep telling them either you are great or you are not great. So Sasi Tharoor was widely accepted in the West. His book is a bestseller in the West because he's talking about that only. Even after so many decades, 70 years after that, he was saying that, look, you have robbed us, you have looted us, and all those things. And we probably don't talk about it that much as the Witzels are talking about it, but they like to be told that you are our masters and you have robbed us. There's a big problem with that. But then you're hanging with that. That's what is happening with Nandi kind of controls, that you're hanging with that all the time. You are trying to create an enemy which may have lost its power. Like the left keeps talking about the feudalism. They keep talking about where is the feudal lord. I have no idea how it will work. But they keep talking about the feudalism. Semi-feudal structure is there and therefore there's a big problem. I don't understand that, but there is a problem. Then there's another there are two big people from the West, Bal Gangadhar and I don't know if you know about him, Bal Gangadhar and Najib Malhotra. These are two very interesting people. I had a chance to interact with them. And at the cost, as I said, at the cost of being branded as communal, I decided to interact with him. And there's an interview with him on YouTube. I've discussed with him on his book. What are they doing? They are saying that, well, we have to decolonize our mind. And the West has appropriated our knowledge. And Najib Malhotra says, West has digested our knowledge and using it without recognition. So what to do with that? We have digested their physics. We are not going to talk about physics from Kanad or anybody. We have taken their physics, we have developed technology, we are developing computer and everything. This is how the global interaction takes place. There is nothing new about it. But though I do agree with him about this decolonization project to some extent, and also this humiliation that West reduces on the Eastern minds, the Asian minds. Once we organize a day-long discussion on this idea of decolonizing mind together in IIC, that's the proceedings are on YouTube. And n number of people wrote to us, physicists, biologists, that yes, we are facing huge discrimination in Western labs. Our projects are taken away, we are not funded. Towards the end of the time, they would just take away the findings and hold that. I'm sure these things must be happening there, but to reduce that to this level, that they have taken everything from us and they are not recognizing and all those things, is not a great idea. I can give more examples than he could give. Actually, it literally happened. We were speaking on his book, and I could give 20 more examples than he has given of how the West has appropriated your knowledge and not accepted. The best example is Sylvester II. Sylvester II was a pope in 1010 or something, French pope. And he was the one who took number system from Asia to Europe. But they had the Roman number system, and the European trade was growing. And Roman number system was not capable of handling that trade. So he was the one who took this number to that place. He had Indo-Arabic teachers who taught him that number system, and then he started propagating that. So West has taken that number system very well, developed that further, but interestingly, they have declared Pope Sylvester as somebody who was talking to ghosts. So if you search him on website, you will find that it is said that if a pope falls ill, they go and watch his grave. And there, if there is a water flowing from that, it means pope would die. And he has been totally demonized. And there are many examples of such kind. Take, for instance, in Germany, we have many examples. So let me not waste my time on that. I think there are many innocent people. But then that is not the point. That happens with civilizations all the time. Let's not get back to that. Let's not try to get into that. Similarly, this fellow called Bal Gangadhar is an interesting person. His argument is that he has a book on rethinking social sciences. And his argument is that, the categories that we are using to understand our societies, they do not mean same thing for the Europe and for Indians. Particularly, for instance, religion. There's a big debate about it, whether dharma is religion or not, whether we have category about religion or not. A couple of my students have worked on this, saying that, well, the category of religion and the definitions that is available do not really help us in understanding things like Gorakhpur phenomenon. What's happening in Europe. His book is coming from Oxford. The other student is working on Punjab, and he's saying that, well, the syncretic tradition, religion cannot be used to understand that tradition. So Punjab religion is very different than what is happening in Punjab. So there are a lot of such things are happening. But he says that then we have to rethink about the categories, invent new categories for ourselves, or use our own categories. I think logic then goes on and on and on, and then he says that everything has to be reinvented. You have to reinvent social science completely, which is not possible and probably not desirable also, because we do accept that there is a kind of dialogue and we have to think afresh creatively how to redefine categories, how to accommodate categories, how to accommodate our own realities in different categories so that we can talk to each other. Otherwise, we will not be able to communicate to each other. I would agree with Marx on that. That is, categories have very little role to play. The categories are signifiers and they only give the symptoms. So you can't have this is a positivist desire to define everything very clearly. He says that you can't define everything very clearly. No matter how much you define, something will be left out. So you can what Nyaya tradition says, lakshan. You can only talk about lakshan. You can't talk about the precise category. So lakshan can give you can have a kind of liberal space to roam around and capture something. So I don't think that debate on category is very well taken. In fact, he got very angry with me because I made a point that he organized a seminar in Bangalore and he invited me thinking that probably I was talking about things that he has been talking about. But he got very angry because I categorized him and Rajiv Malhotra and some other people as Nani. That what they are doing is they are having their own battle in the West. This is identity struggle for them. It is not our struggle. But look at Trilani, he says that idea of India, and it has no talk about Naxal movement. So how can you talk about India at the moment without talking about Naxal movement, without Kashmir violence, without anything else? So they have to project India as an argumentative India as great imagination, as secular imagination. This is their struggle in the West. But you want some recognition there as intellectual. So Rajiv Malhotra's struggle is there, Bal Gangadhar's struggle is there. It's not our struggle. Then you have thinker like Gopal, a great friend of mine, but I think that's also a problem. Because he says that, look, this intellectual tradition is not accessible to us. A very valid point, it's not accessible to you. He says that there is a very interesting article called Desi, Derivative and Beyond. So he says that the Desi scholars, derivative, Desi and beyond, so he rejects the derivatives, derivative thinkers that they are trying to take categories from the West. But he rejects Desi also, that you are taking categories from Desi and they are not accessible to us. I think there is a problem there. The problem is that accessing the knowledge tradition should not be an ideological question, should be a knowledge question. If a knowledge tradition, and I'll make that point later on, born anywhere in the world, if that helps me in understanding something, I must access that. After all, Ambedkar accessed Buddhism. Ambedkar accessed a lot of Indian traditions to make arguments. So it's not something new that the struggling communities, the marginalized communities, revert the discourse of the dominant community to make a point. I mean, a friend of mine answered this very well. She said that most of feminists go to Aristotle for theorizing. And Aristotle was great anti-human, if I'm right. Support a slave system even. But we take Aristotle as a great thinker, but not these people. 45 minutes? Oh, my God. Okay. I'll take 10 minutes. No, I'll try to as quickly as possible. Sorry, this is my favorite area.
Sorry, I read your warning earlier, but I got.
So I think that what we have to do about this is we have to refresh things for ourselves, the new things. We have to think very differently. We do not want to carry the hangover of the previous generation, what I call the Banaras syndrome. The Banaras syndrome is that most of Sanskrit scholars, friends of mine in JNU, they think that their knowledge system has been humiliated. And a friend of mine suffered because of that. He was suffering from kidney trouble, and he said, I will only go to Ayurveda. He's a Sanskrit professor there. And both kidney failed. And finally we had to get him operated from the allopathic medicine. So that's a great problem that they have. So I think we have to get out from that generation's problem. What we have to do is, we have to treat all the knowledge traditions in the world as resource for humanity, for next generation, to theorize and think about things. And this is a good time that all dominant paradigms have failed. There is nothing dominant anymore which can control our thought process. Everywhere there are questions. So this is a time when we can re-articulate ourselves, rethink about ourselves. My first premise is that why can we do that? Why should we do that? That I call human beings are basically homo creativus. We are creative beings. What does that mean? That means that we do have reflexive capacity. And the reflexive capacity through which we can solve a problem in infinity way. And not even the artificial intelligence is kind of reaching anywhere to that. I mean, I don't agree with Elon Musk, whom I really admire. He said that in 2 years' time, probably artificial intelligence will supersede human beings. I think we have that capacity to generate a number of infinite solutions of any problem. And we have this reflexive capacity. The reflexive capacity is very unique to human mind. So, anywhere in the world, any part of the globe, if human beings are there, they do try to reflect on their problems, solve their problems. By solving their problems, they create new ideas. Now those new ideas or the ideas that they create might lose significance, even in their own society. But that becomes part of the collective resource. And what do? We try to document that. We try to narrate that through stories. Just read Maria Rosa, a storyteller, how the Latin American society used to reproduce their ideas. So we do a lot of things. We create poetry, we create novels, we create cinema, and we try to transfer the knowledge that we have produced to the next generation. That's how it's actually. So all such knowledge, I guess, should be considered as resource for humanity. Anywhere born, anywhere in the world. And therefore, we should actually attack the idea of intellectual property. We should be intellectual property, that's idea of property. Second point, yes, we are all such communities therefore are also epistemic communities. I have a student who has worked on the tribal communities, and he's making this point that tribal communities are epistemic communities. Definitely, they have their own way of thinking about things, about nature and everything. But then, there is something very important that is called trans-critique. There is a philosopher in Japan very interesting philosopher called Kozin Karatani. He makes this point that you can understand things internally in one way, but when you distance yourself from your own society and then try to look at it, or somebody who is looking at you from outside, they can understand sometimes things better than what you understand about yourself, because you are caught in your way. So the multiple epistemic traditions should keep reflecting upon each other. So therefore there should be some reverse anthropology about the West also. We must be funded to go to US and find out the problems that they are facing, which we have not been done. Most of our friends who go to Europe or America to work, they work on India. I'm surprised, why do they need to go to US to work on India? What is the fun of it? Probably scholarship is better there. But otherwise that's kind of intellectual pulling, the work intellectual pulling that we are doing. We are not reflecting on their society. I ask many philosophers, like Arvind Sharma. He keeps writing about Indian philosophy and all. I ask him, why, you are an Indian philosopher, why don't you reflect on Canada, what's happening there? He says, I lose my job, I can't do it. So this is the big problem that we are living in. So this class critique is very important. We are extremely committed, but we must prefer translation. We must take opportunity to understand what other people are looking at, how are they looking at us. The third problem is, and that I've already made the point, so I'll just briefly make the point, that the intellectuals of this part of the world, we are existing in what is called master-slave relationship with them. And what is this relationship, we understand better. The master is not supposed to know about the slave. Slave is supposed to know about himself and the master. The big tragedy. You have to learn two languages. They don't need to learn our language. So this master-slave relationship is a dominant relationship in which we are existing. I jokingly say that what is happening in India is, or South Asia University is out of that JNU knows what is happening in Europe. Banaras knows that JNU knows that what is happening in Europe. Patna knows that Banaras knows that JNU knows what is happening in Europe. This hierarchy of universities created all over. And it's not about knowledge. Not that you are creating great knowledge about it. You are just knowing about others, what they are doing. Most of the books that social scientists are producing, my son used to tell me when he was very young, that what are you doing? You are taking 10 books and writing 11th. What is the fun of it? Why are you doing this? And I think the child had some understanding of social science, what we are doing here. It's a master-slave relationship in which we are existing. So we must come out from that. The knowledge production has to be decentered. It has to have multiple centers. And therefore, I argue that the villages as centers for knowledge production must be reclaimed. They have done. I wrote a very long article in Jalsafta recently in the Sunday magazine, gave examples of many villages where there was huge tradition of knowledge production. Generations and generations have written text. In fact, in Kerala, the village I was talking about, now this claim is accepted widely that calculus was developed in that village much before, 500 years before Newton and Leibniz. Now, if I say this, people will say you are talking like a BJP. It's the truth. Let's accept that. And in fact, the best is that Kerala left government has acknowledged this, and Kerala left government has established a Kerala School of Mathematics to teach that system. Kerala is the only state, by the way, and the left government has done it, which has its own idea, intellectual property right. You cannot steal their intellectual property from there. So, probably we have to get out from this master-slave relationship. The centers of production of knowledge have to be revived. That's the idea of the creative theory. Then, third thing, fourth thing, is the transformative social science. Social sciences, these colonial, post-colonial societies have established universities. For what? I mean, I always say that why JNU was established in the South, which was closer to South Bloc. And the real problem with JNU is that it is no more accepted by the government as an intellectual hub. They don't need us anymore. And that's our problem. We are really troubled by that. Every summer, most of our professors are not back to the villages, they are to the US and UK, and they don't paste their photographs on Facebook when they are in the village. They paste their photograph when they are in Pennsylvania. What is the fun of it? So probably this is a big problem with the third one. This is symbolic. The problem with the third world universities is that it is a part of the social control project. The state has established us, funded us in order to develop science of society through which the state can control the societies. Of course, they will define that, not the professor, the students. They define it in a big way. Many of them became big revolutionaries. But the universities are meant to be that, basically. And therefore, we have to really think of transformative social science. I'm surprised. Three great thinkers of India, Gandhi, Tagore and Ambedkar, they are not taught in social sciences departments. They are taught as social thinkers. That's it. That is the place they have got. There is a subaltern place, one paper on Gandhi, Ambedkar and Tagore, and then rest we talk about the rest. And that also after long struggle and everything that happened, I have not seen any university which considers them as founders of Indian social science. Now imagine, these three people mobilized the world, mobilized the country, who had better understanding than them about Indian society. You can't have better understanding because they were capable of mobilizing also. You are not capable of mobilizing. Nobody bothers for you. Nobody bothers for us. Who bothers for us? We have knowledge. Our political scientists, if I go to talk about elections, they all give us good theories. We don't have any new thing to say. But look at these three people. They had total control on the knowledge that through which they could understand Indian society. And for that, where they were getting that? Tagore in Oxford lecture. You know what he said? The philosophy that I've got is not from Oxford, sorry. I've got from the bowels. And he has a big chapter on bowel. So it means that you really have to create transformative social science, and for that you have to access the available knowledge that you have in any society. But without closing the windows, without attaching that with what you call nationalism. It is not a nationalist project. It is a knowledge project. I want to be clear about it. It's a liberative project, not a nationalist project. The way Gandhi used to access them, the way Ambedkar used to access them, the way Tagore used to access them. They were not having any feeling against those knowledge traditions that were produced there, not even against science. The three more points, very briefly, I'll just talk about. One is the thinking. How do we do that? Is the linking between being, thinking, and doing. Our tragedy is that these three are completely distinct. We hardly think about our being. Our being is a very isolated thing than thinking. As a consequence, we don't theorize our being. Now look at Carl Jung. All right, what did he do? He talked about his being only, and that produced a big theory. Bigger than Freud actually. He's not recognized for other reasons. The politics of knowledge is happening. I mean, Jung came to India and wrote about great Indian tradition about consciousness, and then he was told that you have to take them back. Otherwise, when you come back to Europe, you will be excommunicated from the psychoanalytic community. And you had to write that. I mean, I hope you know these stories. That you had to write a letter saying that all my articles on India were products of infatuation with a new society. He had to write this. And he reverted that only when he was 62 and he was ill, and he said that he saw in a dream that there was a big, tall person in a white flag, and he was telling him that you can't die. He was terribly ill. You have to do a lot of things. Then he got reverted. Then he started talking about his own thing and gave a damn to the psychoanalytic community. His book, called Red Book, could not be published for decades and decades. Published 5 years back or 7 years back. And what was there in the what is this Red Book? I said, one has to study two Red Books. The Red Book of Mao and Red Book of Jung. Very interesting comparison. These are both Red Books. One about controlling human being, other about liberating human being. Mao talks about organization. How do you create an organization to control a human being? And then he's talking about how to liberate human beings. So these two have to come together. So this being, thinking, and knowing. Knowing is a very different project for all of us. It is there in the library, the books. That's it. We talk about, I mean, I feel very sorry when I see the papers and professors, they keep giving a survey of literature to us. I mean, that's very important. But many of the books are only survey of literature. No, that's what knowledge, they think that's a knowledge. That's a professional knowledge. Basic actually defines that. That's a professional knowledge. This professional knowledge of the peer group has no utility for the people. They are nowhere. They don't find that very useful. Ranjit Singh used to tell, you quote me, I quote you, both become authority by quotation. See, that's what is happening in the peer group circle. We have to liberate that from there. We have to subject our being part of our thinking. And that thinking, we have to elevate to the level of knowing. I think one of the best examples of such kind of creative thinking in today's world is Gopal Guru. Look at his writings. The way he has subjected himself to theorize. Every experience he is trying to theorize without making an ideological point out of it. There are many Dalit scholars making only ideological point out of that. I have friends who have written false stories about their humiliation. Because they want to encast upon that. Guru doesn't do that. He has never written an autobiography that way. Or take Tulsidas, wrote a very interesting autobiography called Murdahira. And many Dalit scholars are very unhappy about him because he has not actually blamed anybody in that book. So they wanted somebody to be blamed. That's the problem with this kind of situation. So you have to really subject your being, we have to subject our being of our thinking, and that we have to elevate to the level of knowing. And for all this, what we have to do is we have to do two things. One, process of democratic negotiation. Don't treat any knowledge system as inferior. Knowledge systems are knowledge systems produced by reflexive human beings in order to solve their problems, and therefore there must be some good elements in that. We have to do a cognitive reading of that, as Gandhi used to do. The cognitive reading is read them to take something from them what can make your life better. That's a cognitive reading. So you have to think of a project of universal human liberation, liberation of every human being. And I think Gandhi and Ambedkar and Tagore, they were thinkers of universal human liberation. Their liberation was not merely limited to nation state. For that instance, even Marx, it was not merely limited to the working class. They always designed their project as liberation of the working class was necessary for the liberation of humanity. Liberation of colonial society was necessary for the liberation of humanity. Liberation of Dalit was necessary for liberation of humanity. So therefore, we have to think at that level, engage with every knowledge system democratically without treating that as inferior, including the tribal knowledge system, and probably they have much more to say than the other knowledge systems we have. And two more points. One is the emergentist universalism. We should not, what I am saying, should not be conceived as relativism. I am not talking about relativism. I am not saying that this is culture and we have cultural relativism, we have our own knowledge and therefore it's great. Nothing like that. I am saying we have to create universals. What I am saying is the universals should always be treated as emergentist, emerging universe. And I thanks David Bohm, a physicist, quantum physicist, for this. I took this idea from him. That the whole is always emerging. It has never emerged finally. So the knowledge system or the project is always emerging. The universal liberation is always emerging. Every humiliated community or group or section should have its own say in the process of this universal liberation project. So therefore, this emergentist. And the last thing, which actually I should have talked more, but maybe I will skip that, is the transformative practices in sociology. And I'm surprised, and thanks to you that I went back to reading this Lucknow School of Sociology. There are two schools of my interest, two intellectual schools of my interest. One is the Jaipur School of Philosophy and the Lucknow School of Sociology. Both are marginalized, heavily marginalized. Both are gaining ground now. A lot of people are talking about Lucknow School of Sociology. I think they had a very interesting project. And if it was somebody to actually give a lecture, I would definitely attend. I've read Sasi's Hegde or your review of Manish Thakur's book on Radha Mukherjee. I've read all those things. I think something is still left out. I think these articles or books have not been able to pin down what exactly they want to do, because they are being written under the huge domination of the modernist sociologists like Arthur Baker. Everybody is fearing in writing very openly. I mean, I'm just by assumption, I'm wrong. But everybody is fearing the professional marginalization once we start writing about it. I don't understand why they were multiplied. I can understand about the Jaipur school. 1952, there was a conference of Indian Philosophical Association. And Jasdev Sharma and others in Jaipur school, they made this point that, well, Indian philosophy cannot be written in English. And therefore we must write them in Hindi. And since then, the Jaipur school wrote only in Hindi, except a couple of books. The only interlocutor between them and the ICPR was, what is his name? Krishna was speaking both the languages. Otherwise, they were writing only in Hindi, and Hindi was very difficult, so difficult to understand. Nehru promised them a lot of funds, but gave only to ICPR. ICPR grew very big. And unfortunately, when I went to ICPR to seek for funding for this kind of project, they said, this is not philosophy, this is sociology. And now they are saying that it's a great philosophy. That time they said it is sociology. So, this one school, I think, is very interesting, which is trying to create new idea of society. And that new idea is not cultural relativist, that is not talking about Indian society only. It's talking about society in general. And there could be problems, and one can have kind of negotiation and adjustment. That is a project that one has to take up. And I think the idea of Purusharth is a great idea. Purusharth and Vikar is a great idea that Gandhi used for his own theorizing. And it has universal value to theorize our social reality. Social science, in fact, has become like a still camera. We don't have a moving camera. Means human beings are always transforming, but we treat them as one kind of person. My understanding is that there are 10 elements of human beings and Purusharth and Vikar, and there is dynamics all the time. And the dynamism is something that creates a big problem for modern scientists. Therefore, they just ignore that and treat them as single kind of human being. And this Lucknow School of Sociology, there is no reason for marginalization except the dominance of the Indian university system, where the modern knowledge system was privileged against anything else. And anything they were talking about, that became either traditional or communal. That was a big problem. I think they were not talking about a community or knowledge of a community or a Hindu tradition of knowledge. I think they were talking about possibility of dialogue among the knowledge traditions. I think this is a project that I would like to endorse, I would like to go with. But that gives better understanding of human beings. Not only of Indian human beings, and I don't think it is something about Indian human being. Of course, there are cultural differences, but treating culture as a category, as a variable, is important. I think Lacan makes this point very interesting. You know about Lacan, that he was excommunicated from psychoanalytic community for making this point, and in one day he had to change his venue 4 times because he thought that very few people would come for the lecture, and these lectures are published for 4 lectures of Lacan. So probably the cultural variable is important, like the religious variable is important, but that is not all they are talking about. I think there is something much more bigger that they are talking about, and therefore I would request sociologists to come forward to at least properly examine their perspective, what they are talking about. And one of the reasons I am saying that I conclude by 2 sentences, that we are standing at a very dangerous moment. I think our social scientists could not tell us that we will arrive here. They just could, like the economist in the world, they could not tell Queen of England, and she was very angry on that 2008 will be a collapse. She visited Oxford a few months back. She came very happy that the economy is doing well, and suddenly it collapsed. Then she wrote back to the economist that what you are doing, what kind of science you have that could not even tell us, give a hint that this big crisis is coming up. So our sociologists and political scientists could not tell us that we are arriving where we have arrived. And therefore it is a moment for reconsideration. It is a moment to open up our eyes and see what are the available options and engage with that more creatively. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay, thank you. Thank you very much for this lecture. And there's actually lots to say. In fact, speaking as much, I'll open it up for discussion because as you were talking about dialogue, the best way to enter into dialogue is just very open. But just to
sum up, I mean, again, I'm not going to try and sum up, but what I was actually also very struck by that very, very before is when you're talking about the idea of, say, the philosophy of India, because we're sitting in India, is again, to talk of Indian philosophy on one hand is to privilege one side to another, and the problem is that whenever we have conversations of knowledge, ideas, or in anything, is that one side is used to privilege another. So to be able to have a conversation on how to understand the world, but which doesn't privilege one perspective, but it seems to be a tall task because how does one begin with that knowledge? I was also very happy. I was quite struck by what you were talking about, this whole idea of the universal.
Excuse me. You're not audible at the one at the back.
Oh, sorry. I was quite happy. Sorry.
Yes.
I was quite happy about also. I'm quite struck. I feel a bit inspired actually when you're talking about this idea of universalism as a kind of emergent at the end. And I think that's something worth talking about. I mean, I remember there was at some point about a few years ago when they were talking about emergence as an idea to think about in anthropology, and especially in the context of science and technology studies, because the whole point was that we know we're arriving at something, we haven't fully arrived at it yet. So I think that's the challenge, and what you're saying is that we're in a rather dangerous moment. We seem to know where we're going. We haven't got there as yet, but we're wondering where we are. And also your discussion on various figures of scholars from Nandi's point to also Balkan and Rajiv Malhotra. I mean, actually, when I did Narendra Thakur, one of the things comes up is your conversation with Rajiv Malhotra. So there's a part of me that like, that was there. But I think they speak to, but you're right, absolutely. When you include Malhotra, Khilnani, and Gangadhar in the same group, I'm not sure Khilnani would be happy about it, but I'm not.
Nobody's happy about that.
No, but I think you're really right about this. I mean, I'm someone who studied in the West, and I'll also be quite honest, as an Indian student, and you're sitting in London, and these are the guys who told you had to read. Idea of India is a very readable book. I mean, when I was told to read it, you're in your 20s, and you can read it. And it's good, and it is a nice Nehru quote. But actually, the most interesting thing for me in that book is actually the quote of Nehru's, which begins with when Nehru says, "When I see my people," I don't know the exact quote, "are these really my people?" Which speaks of also how he imagined elites then, like these absolute westernized elites and how they dealt with stuff. But they are dealing with their own battles in the West. So the question, I mean, one thing I'm just curious thinking is, we talk about challenging Eurocentrism in the West, but I think there's also another problem. Even if you're in a master-slave relationship, the best thing, one advantage the West has is, we actually don't have a very clear understanding of what the West stands for. I can take the West, but what makes Zizek so interesting, for example, I mean, there are some problems with his thinking, especially in violence and so on, because, I mean, I haven't really engaged with Zizek. Zizek will always point out that I am not Western European, I'm not Franco-German Anglo. I'm from Central Europe, and I remember sitting in a gathering where you had German friends, scholars, British scholars, oh God, these Eastern Europeans and so on. I mean, Brexit was about not letting them in. That's what the British were worried about, the droves of all these Poles and Czechs and Hungarians, and now because of the rise of the Hungarian strongman who says, I want to protect Christian Europe and all these immigrants in, again, yeah, Hungary, that's all those old right-wingers, but the right-wingers are already there. So I think there's another problem which we have, is that the West anyway is in crisis of what it is, but we also similarly have not been in a position to engage with that. For me, for example, I mean, fine, the West has been a very important part of who I am, what I am, I'm primarily Anglo-centric. But one author whose work I like a lot is John Berger, who's a Marxist. But when you read his work, it's a very different kind of West that seems to emerge in his engagement. I mean, he will never say he's a philosopher. I mean, he will say I'm a writer and an architect. So one thing is about that question of West, and that would also shape it. Ways of seeing, there's another one. Our faces, my heart, as brief as photos. No philosopher is most of all accepted as philosophy because it's also written in a poetic style. So this poem, verse, but I don't think Berger cares. And I think that's also one issue, if I could ask you to talk a bit about this. I mean, maybe everyone else in this room, so for those of us in faculty, one of the issues we face is how do we understand the role of the universities, as you say. Sometimes you do have to play the university because I definitely want my salary at the end of the month. I have to pay for my kids' nutrition and all that stuff. But I think therein lies the problem that we have to work with the university and with institutions. And I was wondering that if we could think about the institution and the impact an institution can have broadly in shaping any kind of ambition. For me, and it's like being at a university, I can teach. I don't know what my students think of my classes, but anyway, it's like giving a lecture without my classes. I can see how anyone's reacting. I can write stuff in peer-reviewed journals and non-peer-reviewed journals, and some might say great, some might trash it, whatever it is. But university institutions have this other way of imposing things where your engagement with everyday life is not about intellect, it's not about academy, it's not about knowledge, it's about being, I mean, I know this is important, but being on taxi committees. You know, it's like having a conversation on what about Olaf or SAU, and I mean, these are the things coming at JNU is low, you know, JNU is also part of it. All universities are. So this impact of an institution becomes very well, because also at the end of the day, we become part of institutions. My identity at the end of the day is I am at SAU, you are at JNU. I don't know where Rajiv Malhotra is based, but this guy Kilnani is the head of King's India Institute, which, as you said, you're in the West studying India, and you know that's the thing. So how does one look at the impact of institutes in affecting how we think about things? And also therein, of course, lies the challenge of accent. And there's another possibility of thinking is that, and it's true, and I'm getting it very much, we go to the West to study this place. But there's another tension where very often, which appears that we're often forced into looking at ourselves. So my own work has dealt primarily with Jammu and Kashmir and the Kashmiri context, whatever it is. But the first question anybody would ask me is, why are you working in the Kashmiri context? You're Bengali, go to Bengal. And there is a very interesting puzzle there, but no one is ever, I have friends, and it's not that they're aliens. I have a good friend of mine, comes from working class British, mixed race background, half Jamaican, half Gypsy, but he could think of going to India to do field work. And yes, absolutely good, you learn something. I mean, and you're Bengali, go to Bangladesh, okay? And whatever it is, you can get a job in the NGO sector. I'm like, what the hell? And so going to Kashmir, I mean, my own relatives have their own take about, why we're better than everyone, classic popular thing. But there is this ability, there's this problem where we seem to also be forced into our role. So how do we engage with the dialogue with this? Okay, I'll keep on going. We can collect some more questions. Just raise your hand very patiently and, yeah, precise. That's the thing. Precise questions, I'll take them. Oh, no. When I meant precise, indecent is fine, just precise. So, Rohan, shall I take another? One, two more. Take this one. Rohan? Sorry. Rati and Umesh. Okay, we'll start with you three. Rohan? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Rohan Vasu. I'm a MA first year, first semester student here, Sociology department. So, my question to you is that, from what I gather from your lecture, putting it in short, it's about recontextualizing things, reconciling ideas, and bringing things together. I'll take a particular example. You mentioned, I think, Rajiv Bhargava in the beginning of your thing, and hard, not Manoj. And there was this particular essay of him that I remember reading. I don't exactly remember its title, but I think it was something about genealogies of secularism. I don't exactly remember the title. Something like he was trying to draw a genealogy of it. And right at the onset, he talks about something like he will try to avoid a teleological bias if possible, but at the same time he admits that he doesn't know if that's possible because for every Indian, secularism becomes a very important thing to talk about if you're working on religion. So coming to the modern, where you talk about going back to our roots or antiquity. So coming to the modern, we have certain problems in our religious landscape which we did not have in the pre-modern. For example, the idea of enumerated populations and territory that Surya Kaviraj talks about, it's not something that you find in the pre-modern. He also mentioned something like fuzzy lines when there came to pre-modern interaction. So, how would you, especially in this case, suggest reconciling ideas from a past where these problems didn't exist with the contemporary? Because I completely understand the idea and I quite like the idea of recontextualizing ideas, but sometimes certain conditions have changed so much that it might not seem very possible. So how would you tackle a problem like this?
Thank you. Prachi.
So I'm actually not a student from here. I mean, I'm a student, but from KD University, and I'm doing research at JNCA. And I was very interested in this idea of the point that you brought up, that being part of Indian academia, how do we engage with the Western? We're in this constant circle of we're victimized by the West and we have to talk something about our former colonial powers, but we're stuck in that conversation. But if you were someone from outside in, so someone in Western academia, your work happens to be, or your research happens to be about South Asia or what have you, and you're also technically part of the West, but also not in the sense that you're visibly an immigrant or you're visibly, in some way, other in the margins, still occupying a fairly privileged place in the margins, I would say, as opposed to, in Canada anyway, being more privileged than the indigenous population there or what have you. So what kind of barriers do you think that academics outside, in the West, have a relationship or have an obligation or have been, or even in ethical terms, that what are the questions that they should be asking themselves in how do we engage them with our research, what is in a place that is outside of ours, and also keeping in mind the intersections that we work in. So if you're an Indian scholar, if you're in subaltern studies doing work in Columbia, writing post-colonialism and writing back to Western academia about back home, about India, but you're also occupying, you're using their tools by branching of that. And you're also occupying a space back home, being Savarna, being motherhood and all that. So what are the challenges do you think, from an Indian academic perspective, what would you say for someone in the West?
Thank you, Prachi.
Would you say that Indian scholar in the West?
Yeah. It's still being part of Western.
I'm Mahesh, I'm a PhD scholar in the Department of Sociology. You talked about a lot of possibilities with this kind of theorization going back. I would be interested in understanding some of the limitations that this has in terms of, say, this was happening, this did happen in the 1990s also, where people like Nandi, they were beginning to talk about these things, but at a certain point it took a very dangerous turn where they began to even justify things like sati. It was not a justification of sati itself, but that it took a turn where sati itself became an Indian tradition which could be justified in a certain way, because and the assault on it was questioned in a certain language. So, and even if how do you look at the rift between the Indian categories itself? I mean, if you have a certain knowledge system, or if you have to understand a certain condition within the Indian context, you have contesting ideas. Even if one looks at caste, you will have a certain understanding of Brahminical understanding of the caste system, and you have the tradition, the challenges to the caste system, how Ambedkar and others begin to theorize caste. So, where does this theorization begin, and how do we begin to think of what are these traditions that we begin, and what are the limits of these very traditions that will prevent us from looking at these systems?
Thank you. Yeah, we'll take three. We'll take another round.
I think I agree with your thoughts that I agree with you that we have to develop a new technique of engaging the West. And probably what we have is engaging with the power of the West. It's a modern West. And but Gandhi, he engaged the West in a big way. And that engagement was very different than engaging with only the modern West. He gave a critique to the West and then engaged with that way. So I don't think that I would like to fall in this kind of trap of East and West. That trap is just useless. In fact, that formalism is very old and it's a post-colonial formalism which we need to reject completely. Right? So we have to develop a technique of engaging with them and trying to do a community feeling of what they are doing, right? Without privileging the idea that they are from the West. Or the book is published from Oxford, therefore must be good. There is no more consideration. Maybe self-published book is better than what was published by Oxford. But I think that the best text that I find on philosophy today is a novel by Hazaruk Sarvavedi, Anandasta Ota. It's a wonderful text on philosophy, on the approach to philosophy. How do we approach Indian intellectual tradition? The best. And I don't know how many of you have read that. But if you read that, you will find that the protagonist is the last man of the society, the last person of society. And then he raises the question, what is the fun of doing philosophy if it cannot solve the problem of drought or the hunger? So what is the fun of doing that? And from there he starts rebuilding the philosophy of Galilee. So I think that we have to stop privileging this hierarchy that we have been privileged to. That way even our side, I think it falls in that trap, and that trap is not good. Our generation have to come out from that entirely. The institution thing is a puzzle. I know the university is an identity. I enjoy that identity very much and would like to remain for the whole life in JNU campus because it's a wonderful place to stay in. And after Kanhaiya episode, you are now, I have a very different take on that. I think we are more respected now by the common people of India. Wherever I keep meeting villages and everywhere, earlier they would not take cognizance of the fact that I belong to JNU, I am from there. Now even a pan wala would say, "Acha, aap JNU se hai, pan free mein khao." Aapke liye, aapke liye khas taur pe bana hai. So you are now very much privileged being part of such an institution which has a kind of, which goes before you reach there. And there's a disadvantage, advantage both. I have an experience of engaging with this fellow called Mark, who started attacking me because I was from JNU. And he was taking me as a representative. I said, sorry, please kind of differentiate between me and JNU and then talk about it. So anyway, so that is, I think that's the big puzzle. And puzzle, more serious puzzle is that I always feel that the Asian society has never been very institutional society. We were never into making institutions. And this may be advantage and disadvantage too. See, take Sufism. You are converted into center and power. Because the moment you create institutions, you have the power relation with that. And how do you deal with that? You get separated from, I keep telling my left friend, Isa, some Isa people probably was here. When Isa was coming up, I used to say that, look, your problem is that the more you grow as an organization, less you become democratic. So what to do with that? And there was a person called Ravindra Kumar, director of the. He told us when we were building that institution called Developing Countries Research Center. And the problem is that you are so creative without any money, without any center in a hut, you are staying and doing so well. The moment you get money, you have more opportunities, but your creativity will go down. So that's a big puzzle for me. The university, it functions very well. Like JNU, the Vice Chancellor is trying to make it more formal, and I'm sure that creativity will go down. The more you make it formal, less will be creativity. So what to do with that? It's a big. If you don't do that, it doesn't survive for long. Look at the universities in our country. None of them have survived for more than 50 years. Great university like Patna University, Bhagalpur University, or Allahabad, or BHU, or JNU, 50 years in the life. In the West, they have 200 years age of a university. Lucknow School of Sociology. Yeah. So what is the problem with us? Maybe we have to develop a new theory of institution. These are things that we have to work on. I think that's very important. Rohan, this idea that these are things of the past, like Nathan called it, things of the past. For that matter, then Marxism was developed in Europe. We have hardly anything in common, but we are still Marxists. How come? So ideas, I think, have autonomy from their genealogy. They emerge in different conditions, but then they remain relevant for future generations. Look at the Plato, we still start with Plato, we read Plato so seriously. Because when you are solving your problem, you are doing two things. You are doing something very particular for that time, and simultaneously you are doing something very universal. That universal element becomes relevant for everybody. Like for Gandhi, say, Gandhi should have been finished. But surprisingly, when I was in London and I saw a lot of children going to Gandhi's statue and getting photographed, I asked the teacher, have you told them to meet Gandhi? He said, no, they have come by themselves. I said, they are not South Asians. I said, what is the reason? He said, there is a kind of new interest in Gandhi. So probably there is something universal that they create while doing that particular thing. While struggling for a particular community, Ambedkar has created something very universal theory, which is relevant for non-Dalits also, equally. For instance, I think Ambedkar's theory of religion is a powerful theory of religion, where he says that there is a religion of principles and religion of rules. Wonderful theory that explains so many things to me at a class level. And it helps me in explaining things to the people. So probably we create those universes.
I understand that ideas do not suddenly just die. They are created and they can be taken forward. But what happens when an idea encounters something that is so alien from itself? Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to get at. Because I completely understand the fact that ideas can.
So I think that is where the human creativity lies. Nowhere in the world, in no time in the history, we have actually used any of the ideas as they were produced. We always transform them. Therefore I am saying, these are resources for us. The moment we think that these ideas were old time ideas, I think we are doing injustice with the ideas. Therefore we keep reinventing ideas, and same idea has history. All ideas have history. Theory of justice is not same which was produced earlier. The theory of private property is not same which has been produced by law. They have their own histories. And therefore, that history has to be created by human beings while struggling. Sometimes they abandon the idea, that idea re-emerges after a long time. Very long time that re-emerges. After all, Rajiv Bhargava is going back to Akbar to see how did he handle multiple communities. So probably one has to give up, this is the resource that we have. We have to mine the resources to find out how to handle our contemporary times. And maybe we cannot repeat them, maybe we cannot use them as they were, but we have to change them, transform them. Nobody has done it better than Gandhi. Look at Gandhi, the way he picks up an idea, transforms that, throws them out, again recaptures that, and communicates with the people. Why it is necessary? Because I think that human beings have the tendency to become conscious in the context of the collective consciousness. Why did Gandhi pick up Gita? In fact, not Gandhi. 1885 to 1935, there is hardly any political thinker or political leader who has not talked about Gita, who did not lecture on Gita. Why? I think one of the reasons probably must have been, there are many reasons probably, but one reason probably was that Gita was a household text. People were reading. It was possible to communicate through that. And then what does Gandhi do with Gita? He says, damn it, who wrote it? I'm not interested. He never talked about Krishna in his life. Only talk about Ram. And then he said that, and I also am not interested to go to Sanskrit to understand the nuanced meaning of a text. I'm not interested. What I'm doing is I'm reading text and it is solving my problem. It's a cognitive reading. The same slok gives me another answer at different times. So I'm doing a cognitive reading. So cognitive reading is done when you want to solve a problem. I mean, he's like a surgeon. who has to perform tomorrow. And tonight he's absolutely in undress what to do, this way or that way. And then he kind of gets some insight, some intuition, some help from the text to do something that way. And always dangerous. Remember after Chori Chora how dangerous it was. And he took a decision and he said, "Mere Atma ki awaaz." And he had a capacity to manage it. Or his experiment with sexuality, how dangerous it was. And today, one in every leader is kind of banned after the small sexual scandal is out. And this 60, 70 years old man was sleeping with a young lady. And when he came out from the room, all leaders were sitting and saying that you have done whatever you have done, please don't write about it. He said, if I don't write, I will become a criminal. I have to write about it. I think he was a great thinker that way that he could experiment with these things also. And this was a great thing. Because today what we are facing is a huge, I wrote around 7 years back, the biggest problem our society is going to face in times to come is sexuality. We have not really addressed this question at all. So I think that these ideas keep growing and flowing. Hippocrates, I think, let me make a very controversial statement. I am secular, I am religious, therefore I am secular. That's my position. I am religious, therefore, and that's not my point. Gandhi says this very clearly. I am religious, therefore I am secular. If I am not religious, I can never be secular. I will not elaborate on that, we can discuss that, that takes a long time. I think the danger, I'll come to it, the danger that excessive desire, and Nandi, I already mentioned. The moment you make that part of a nationalist project, there's a big problem. The moment you make it a kind of post-colonial project, that's a big problem.
I really want to understand what is the difference between post-colonial.
Yes, I understand, but that's why I'm answering this. I think that I would treat all these systems as I said, I repeat that, as knowledge creations available to human beings. There is nothing called colonial or post-colonial about it. It's not a question of identity for me. For post-colonials, it is an identity question. Post-colonial identity is a very important problem. I think identity question is a dangerous question. It's not identity for me. I remember Gandhi when he was asked after Noakhali, I was reading Noakhali thing, and I was very impressed by what he said. Noakhali, Hindus were being killed in a back way, and Gandhi was unable to stop this killing. He was asked to get out from Noakhali. Then somebody asked him that, what would you suggest the Hindus? Should they take violence or not? He said they should defend themselves. If non-violence doesn't work, they should become violent. They should defend themselves. He said, but that is against your non-violence. He said, yes, but that is what is needed. Then somebody said, suppose what should I do? Should I defend Hindus by killing the Muslims? He said, yes, you should, if needed. They said, but what is this? What is that you are saying? When you are against the community? He said, no. Then I will expect you to defend Muslims against the Hindus also, equally. That is the point. It's not a question of identity. Defending human beings against communal violence, if you do it without taking your identity in question, then probably you are being very secular. You are defending human beings. That's what Gandhi's position. So I think that post-colonials treat this as an identity question versus the West. I would not like to do that. I think these are the knowledge reasons and useful for human beings. In fact, West has ignored that very much. I'm surprised he says that Buddhism is useless in one of his lectures. I'm very much surprised. I think he has not read Buddhism at all. And this is an identity question. He has made Christianity as an identity question. I think Buddhism has huge resources available for the humanity. And we know that the world is accessing that today. So I would like to get out of that ambiguity. So Nandi, I think, as I said, that this identity creation was needed for them because one was praising the West, other was critiquing the West. Both were talking about the West. So West was happy about that. So I want to get out of that. Prachi, I think, when I'm saying that why should we go to the West and do all these things, I'm saying that these are the knowledge spaces. And West should give us autonomy, the way we want to become conscious of things. Nobody should force us to study our own society. That is a grandmother research, that you can know only what your grandmother. Sorry.
What if you were to be from the West, you were not from the West and part of your tradition? I cannot stand from
There is no complicated argument. I've never thought about it. But maybe what I would like to think of myself if I'm placed in that position is that I would assert me as a universal thinker beyond my identity of being Indian or being non-Indian. So whatever question comes to my mind, that should be solved without my identity being in the center. And I would like to take that question to the universal level. For instance, Dalit Islam, that's what the point I was making. The Gopal Guru, if I'm praising him because he has used his experiences to theorize, then transcended that. Transcending your identity, I think, is very important. Taking yourself at the universal level. And they should take also, that's a struggle. I remember A.P.S. Oberoi, a sociologist. I'm a great fan of him. So, somebody invited him to speak on Sikhism after 1984 riots. He said, if you are inviting me because I'm a Sikh, then let me tell you very clearly. That if I will speak for Sikhism or Sikhs, who will speak for humanity? And that is the point. I just want to modify that I will speak for Sikhs if they are tortured, humiliated, but I will quickly transcend my identity beyond that. Like Gandhi. He spoke for India as a nation, but constantly transcending that identity also. I will argue about it from Sankhya philosophy. How do we identify ourselves in certain country? Ourselves, family, nation, group. So we transcend. I think Gandhi's main point is that if you move inward to the layers of your thought system, the more you move inward, more agency you develop to move outward also. At a certain stage you reach to the infinity, both ways. And that is your liberation from your identity. You become a universal human being. Like many of the thinkers. It is universal human being. So that is this constant struggle, whether you are in India or Dalit, or in the West as Indian, in this hierarchy created everywhere. Constant struggle is to keep struggling and transcending from that and arriving to the position from where you can talk about it without keeping your identity. Because of what identity was in that. That's my answer.
Fabulous talk, quite relevant as a teacher, I think it's quite relevant for us. Because I think those having doubts about getting into traditions of thoughts. It's much easier to justify engagement with canons of which are more in circulation than some of the other things which are not.
So certainly empowered.
Yes, one feels safer. But one always realizes the importance of engaging about experience. I remember D.N. Madan's anxiety about disciplinary amnesia, particularly sociologists from Lucknow. Yes, he edited a compilation of all these thinkers from Lucknow. One has those amnesias, but one does not know, probably because of the institutional limitations. However, institutions probably cannot be blamed entirely for this. It's also our training, our preferences, our own ideological hang-up, etc., etc. And one tries hard to get out of those things and create some possibilities of doing things with some of these systems of thoughts. I am full of praise for this discussion. However, I thought of going to the kernel where this identity question is one of the questions. My question is related to the separation of knowledge from ideology. Right? I understand that it's possible to transcend one's identity beyond a point, and you rightly gave examples of all those who could manage to transcend. Roy Bhaskar, you mentioned, Roy Bhaskar's philosophy, critical transcendentalism is precisely about this possibility and how this possibility has been functional at grassroots level, not amongst philosophers alone, not amongst great accomplished thinkers, also at grassroots level. People, in their day-to-day life practice that kind of critical transcendentalism that Roy Bhaskar has referred However, the separation between ideology and knowledge, and the question which could be called knowledge question, question which could be called ideology question, this separation is slightly troubling for me because it seems that we may fall back to same Cartesian trap by doing this separation, right? Because our larger worldview, which is also characterized by all kind of ideologies and utopias and sensations of various kind and identification, sources of identification, that larger worldview, no matter how prejudiced, no matter how much it is related to that Cartesian body which is to be doubted, that larger worldview is instrumental in our discovery or revisiting of systems of thoughts, or even formulation of new, if there is something called new thought. How to really operate with this separation? I suppose there is a possibility of taking the same, I'm asking all these things properly in the temperament of Nyaya student, more or less. So how to really do this? How to really solve this dilemma? It's almost like Sakuraju. You can figure out the problem, but you cannot probably solve the problem. I mean, every piece of knowledge, any kind of epistemological inquiry is loaded with ideological interest, by and large. When Hindi Swaraj is written, one realizes that in spite of all the merits of Hindi Swaraj, there is this, in the backdrop, there is certain kind of, ideological mover and shaker at work.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Deep Oman, and I'm from the National Relations Department. Deep Oman. Yes. So my question resembles a lot with what Sir has already said. So therefore I would not speak much, just add on to what I think would complement Sir's question, and it's got to do with that point about ideology and knowledge and how to separate that. So I'm also taking a leaf from what Ankur Sir had said at the beginning of the discussion after you had finished your speech, is that you were speaking to us, the people who study social sciences and then go on to teach and write about it, right? And you're asking us to kind of engage in this endeavor, you're inviting us to think with you and go forward with this endeavor. But where are we located? We are largely located within an institutional space. Right, and the examples that you're drawing, examples such as Rabindranath Tagore, examples such as Mahatma Gandhi, their thought is produced largely outside the institutional space. Rabindranath is famously known for having never been gone to a school, and his whole endeavor of creating Vishwabharati University was to kind of challenge or critique the idea of institution as it is understood in sort of modern institution, education institution as it's understood nowadays. So how do you see this project coming into fruition in this institutional space, which does not only have ideological moorings, but also moorings of infrastructure, of funds, several things that and of course about exclusivity, given that this critique is now coming up that these educational spaces are disproportionately inhabited by a certain section of the society, certain caste, class, gender intersection of the society. So how do you see, that, how do you sort of, I made myself clear, I guess, how do you kind of resolve this dilemma that we are facing after your lecture?
Okay, thank you. I think this is the last question.
Okay, the knowledge I think this is a dilemma. Having a positive debate about it. With somebody you know probably, somebody was Savita Khan. So I am doing a project on knowledge and practice, trying to study as a graduation in Lithuania. I happen to be a Mathian, which I never realized before I was told that you are a Mathian, because I always stayed in the hostel, so it was never an identity for me. And a better identity is some kind of identity times before. Or a Bihari identity is much more powerful for me than the right? But she has this identity. She keeps arguing this point. I always say that I'm only interested in the knowledge project. I'm not interested in the ideological project. She makes this point constantly that, well, can we pursue the knowledge project without being ideologically committed to this? But that only motivates me to do this. That only kind of allows me to put my own resources to spend on that. So I would think that the point that you are indicating towards is that the role of emotion and feeling and connectedness in your knowledge project, right? I think this is very important, and I would only think that what is the ideological about it? The ideological, when we say what is the difference between knowledge and ideology? All ideologies do have certain part of the knowledge too, but then there is a mystification. So I am against this mystification idea. But then the moment you become ideological, what you do is you mystify certain things, you ignore certain relations which are not egalitarian within the community. When you fight for the community and convert this to an ideological issue. So I think that is where my problem is. Like when she talks about Mithila, she talks about only the Gavya things about Mithila. I said that there are huge lot of problems. In fact, some people got very angry at me when I was telling that this is a rotten society. I don't want to belong to this, but this is absolutely bogus kind of self-image that they have. So they were very angry at me. But I think I have to be honest about it. Therefore, I struggle constantly to identify myself with the community if it is marginalized. But at the same time, as I said, I will constantly also try to transcend that. So I would use Marx's statement in that my defining criteria would be that struggle for one, the liberation for one should be liberation for all. And liberation for all should be liberation for one. If that is my criteria of engaging with a community or identity, then it's fine. I have a full argument on identity politics, which I think I use the Kantian concept in Imago to understand the identity question, which I think is very interesting to know that why do we identify ourselves with something? The emotion comes, we feel happy, we find our meaning. The real problem comes when it gets converted into the identity conflict as a fourth stage of this. That is where you start using this as an ideology, mystifying it. Like I think Indian nationalism was a liberation project quite for some time, but then it became a very mystifying project. Now there is a nationalism which is telling us that you go to hell and save nationalism. So you die and save nationalism. I mean, nothing is very egalitarian about it. So that's I think where I would like to struggle to come out from that. Similarly, the identity outside, I would defend the Indianness of myself if somebody attacks me there, but for my colleagues on that ground. But at the same time, I will constantly transcend from that too. I will not convert that into my ideological issue to fight with. So that's the struggle that we have to, I think, constantly. And this is what I'm learning from Gandhi in a way. Gandhi, when he was told, he was in fact endured for conversion to Christianity. So he said that I don't know my own religion, why should I get converted? Let me first know my that religion. Then he started working on that. Then he said that, well, I think that all religions are saying the same thing, there is no point in conversion. And if there is a humiliation for any religion, I will erase that. So I think that's what we have to engage in. So this is a complex question, and it's a constant struggle that where we give up the project of knowledge and align ourselves with the project of ideology. It's a tight walk. The institutional spaces, I know that we are in the institutional spaces and we have to follow certain logic of the institution. And these thinkers were not institutional, so they had their autonomy. But the tragedy is that we are doing social sciences. It is about society. So how much can we know society by sitting in the library? There's a limit to that, isn't it? There's a limit to that. Like for instance, I'm trying to experiment. I'm traveling around to find out how the Gandhians, they are thinking about politics. So what happened with Gandhi was, Gandhi had the beautiful combination of social work and politics together. That's the beauty of Gandhi politics. After that, what happened? Nehru took away his political project, and Vinoba took away his social project. Since this Humpty Dumpty situation, both are so separated, they can't come together again. And everybody is thinking about that. And the institutional pattern doesn't allow, because you have to make a party. And once you make a party, you know what happens with Aam Aadmi Party, the Gandhian, and Azare flew away from was humiliated and so this is a struggle. Now, this is a real project for the political scientist. What kind of new institutional arrangement you can work out, where you can reclaim the Gandhian project of politics with Rachnaत्मक kind of constructive program. That's a big project, and you have to really work on that. So I think for social scientists, it is disastrous to identify oneself only with the university. I think we have to be in the university and define the university simultaneously. Otherwise, the logic of taxpayers' money will start preventing on us. They will say that, what are you doing? And we were told during that time that you are eating up, and without by our friends, you are eating up the resources of the state and speaking against the state. I said, I am paid for that only. I am paid for speaking against the state so that the state should know what is wrong with it. Otherwise, the state will never know. Media they have bought already. People don't have guts to say anything. Who will tell you that you are doing wrong? Except the professors who can tell you, who have nothing to lose. But so therefore, I think our role is very difficult. We are Gramscian. We have to be Gramscian, organic, intellectual, and Russellian philosophers simultaneously together. And that's a difficult task, particularly in universities in India or third world or any other country, playing multiple roles, and professors are also playing multiple roles. They are not only teaching. They say that, why don't we publish? Why should I publish? They don't need to, we are doing so many things. Our students are suffering from depression. Do you have any psychological support for them? Except me? I can show you the letters of my students when they write to me about their depression. They come and cry in my chamber. Who will play that role? If I sit down to write, if I fix there on the board that you can only meet between 3 to 4 o'clock, will it solve my problem? Will it solve their problem? They are playing a number of roles in the university. There are people outside running the movements. They will come and ask you what to do now. You say that no. And Rajesh Singh used to say, when you ask the sociologists that how to solve this problem, they will say, I am a Parsonian, therefore I can't answer you. It's a very funny thing that Indian intellectuals have been doing in first generation of them. I think we have to transcend that. We have to acquire a new role of intellectual, which is a combination of what Gandhi, Tagore and Ambedkar did, and create a new movement. So this is the new struggle for all of us. The state will stop funding. We are discovering new ways of organizing seminars now. We are asking people to bring their lunches and have their no money, no need of money, zero budget seminars now. Absolutely zero budget seminars. If we have rooms free, if the university stops us from taking rooms, we will stay outside and eat our lunch. But we will retain our criticality. That is the point that we have to make constant. And that's why we are into academics. We are not in this job for salaries. We could have got better salaries anywhere else. You become a manager. I mean, my own friends, you will start a coaching institute for admission in South. You know, I'm sure the ITs, half the ITs are doing only that. Half the ITs are running coaching institutes in India actually. They are earning a huge amount of money. We are not here for that. We are here for serving the people as an intellectual. That identity of me or your as intellectual, serving the people, constantly struggling to have that autonomy to serve the people, is the identity that we would like to have.
Thank you so much, Nandra, for coming here and sharing with us your ideas and actually provoking the discussion as well, a lot of thought. And thank you all for attending today's seminar. We will continue the conversation over tea and well, samosas are the most famous in this year, at least, I can say that. So thank you all, and have a good day.